Joy to the world, Angel Hernandez is done. Let baseball fans rejoice.
Yes, it is time for your favorite politically incorrect sports podcast. It is time for Sports Frenzy 2.0. That man with the velvet pipes
Yeah, right.
is your Uncle Dave, the conquistador, Dave Height.
He is your Uncle Kev, the maestro, Kevin Crane.
And yes, we'll lead off with baseball just because the fans around the world
Are ecstatic.
Major League Baseball is finally, we got rid of Joe West. Now we've gotten rid of Angel Hernandez.
Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Normally, getting rid of an umpire wouldn't be such big news, but in this case,
the worst umpire ever.
After 33 years, we are finally done with Angel Hernandez. And the thing that blows my mind, so we'll start off, of course, with baseball this week. The thing that blows my mind here on May the 29th, this will drop Thursday morning, May the 30th, is the support he's getting. Joe West, of course, comes out and says, I don't understand why everybody, because it's a union, because it's a brotherhood.
A union thing, and Joe West was almost as bad.
But Aaron Boone, manager of the Yankees, comes out.
By all accounts, Hernandez was a great guy. Personable, easy to talk with before the game, during the game, until shit blew up and he made a mistake or somebody called him out on it. That's fine. He can be the nicest guy in the world. But he was a horrible umpire. And that's what everybody takes exception with.
And I would be okay with that except for the lawsuit.
Yeah.
Filing the lawsuit against Major League Baseball when obviously they were trying to get him out because he was so egregiously bad at his job, and then saying it was discrimination.
Yeah, it wasn't discrimination. It was poor performance at your job.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me that he was so bad, but everybody's going, okay, it's all right. He was a great guy. Let's just let him back off and retire gracefully.
Again, that's all right. The fans are taking care of it.
If it wasn't for the fact that he had sued MLB for discrimination, and we've got a lot coming up in this episode and the weekend edition. I am fired up, kids.
Oh, no.
Fair warning. By the way, the greatest Van Halen album of all time. Fair warning that I am fired up and I'm going to piss a lot of people off. You want to talk politically incorrect? This week is the week.
It's going to be an epic rant.
I am going to make 99.99% of the country mad at me. Not at Dave, but at me. Me specifically. Slings and arrows can come at me. And I'm starting off right now with Angel Hernandez saying, bullshit, I don't care if he was a nice guy. The minute he filed that lawsuit claiming discrimination because he was so bad, saying that it was because he was of Hispanic origins.
No, that had nothing to do with why you were being penalized by not getting postseason assignments. You were bad at your job, period. End of conversation.
So while we have that as a break to start everything off, I guess we have to look at the rest of baseball. And for the Cubs and the White Sox both, not a very good week.
Nobody can hit, nobody can score. There you go.
No. And I did check earlier today, but if you want to tell the kids with our weekly tracking of how many 300 hitters there are in Major League Baseball, I did take a sneak peek a couple hours ago, again, as we're taping on May the 29th. And it's already way down. It is already way, way down from where it was last week.
We had 2 weeks ago, it was 18. Last week, it was 15. And now I'm waiting for the internet to play catch up here. Because when we can, we like to give you the live statistics.
Yeah, and now we get these from ESPN, and sometimes their qualifications are a little odd. Like, I know Luis Arias, the greatest for average hitter, two-time batting champion, technically does not qualify right now, and I know he's batting about 330.
Right. But you have to have so many at-bats to qualify.
And that's like Imanaga for the Cubs, pitching tonight, because he's missed a couple games on rainouts, and Council's been nursing him along. He's on the borderline in terms of qualifying for the ERA title.
Right. It's being considered for Cy Young.
Right.
They're screwing him over the way they're going. And they need him out there. But we went down. We are now, as of we taping this, 12 Major League regulars hitting above 300. This is really freaking pathetic.
All right, can I start pissing people off?
Sure, why
okay?
not?
I'm already off to a rough start here. I'm bleeding. Thanks to the conquistador for running to get me a tourniquet as I ripped off a scab on my mosquito bite from 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I know, a little too much information. Sorry. This is why I don't go outside, because of all the beer I ingest. The mosquitoes just are drawn to me. They want that sugar. They want to pull that sugar out of my system. Like some kind of bizarre diabetic drug. They just want to pull it all out.
All right, what's your rant this time?
All right, so talking about the statistics, talking about the 300 hitters. Now, of course, in the past weeks, we have discussed how we are disappointed beyond belief, not only with our teams, but with baseball in general, and how nobody tries to actually hit for average anymore.
Right.
Baseball is, you can agree with me or not, but I think you will,
an elitist sport.
But it is a stat-driven sport, moreover than any other sport.
That it is.
It is a stat-driven sport.
It's about statistics.
We've talked about the old days when it was 300 hits or 300 wins, 3,000 hits, 3,000 strikeouts.
Yeah.
The benchmarks for the Hall of Fame, and we've talked about how those have all been diminished.
Because of the stat geeks out there ruining the game.
All right, so now we're going to upset people. It's on me and me alone. Do not blame Dave. Do not call him names. But of course, the news came down today that Major League Baseball will now officially incorporate all the Negro League statistics in with the Major League Baseball record books. Now, in and of itself, I don't have a problem with this, but for a game that claims it is the purest when it comes to stats, but we don't let Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame, but we don't let Roger Clemens in, but we don't let Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa in.
But.
And again, you're going to get mad at me, kids, and that's fine. I can take the slings and arrows. Now, all of a sudden, we're bringing in the Negro League stats. So, all-time leading hitter is no longer Ty Cobb. It is now Josh Gibson. All-time leading slugging percentage is not Babe Ruth. It is Josh Gibson. All-time leading OPS is not Babe Ruth. It is Josh Gibson. I have a fundamental issue with this. Am I saying that we should ignore the Negro League statistics? Hell no.
No,
absolutely not. But the problem you're going to have with me for my next comment, that's fine. I will deal with it. Again, I'm bleeding here in the studio, so I'm discombobulated. I'm out of sorts, but I haven't lost enough blood yet to say that I have lost my mind. If we're going to keep Pete Rose out of the Hall of Fame, if we're not going to accept and acknowledge the steroid era players and their numbers, I'm saying all this shit should be separate. And a lot of people are going to say, you're a racist. You're a racist, separate but equal. That's what they did back in the day with the bathrooms and the facilities. You're a racist, separate but equal. Fine. You want to call me a racist because you're ignorant? That's fine. I am not saying to ignore. I am saying they are on an equal level. The Negro League statistics should be acknowledged on the same level as all the other stats, but they never got to play together. Through ignorance in our society, they never got to play together. Through heinous racism, they never got to play together. But that does not mean that we just take all the stats and smoosh them together, but not steroid guys. No, they don't count. And now all of a
If you're
sudden,
going to do this, you have to incorporate the steroid guys.
I don't think we should incorporate anything. I think it should be kept separate. We've talked about how the steroid guys should be acknowledged with an asterisk. And I'm not saying the Negro League players get an asterisk. I'm not saying that. They did not cheat. The steroid guys cheated to a point. Okay? They did. I am not disavowing that. I am not ignoring that. But you got to say Josh Gibson is not, I can't say he's the greatest batter of all time. But now I cannot say it's Ty Cobb or Babe Ruth either. This is my conundrum. This is my problem with this, is that, again, I know it's a terrible phrase to use, and I have thought about this for hours and hours and hours. There's the 5-minute rule. Most of you out there, you trolls on social media, would be very wise to learn the 5-minute rule. You think about
You
a
don't
point,
even have a 5-second rule. You just instantly react.
you think about your reaction, your anger, your hatred, the vitriol you want to spew when you see something posted or a comment. You need to shut down for 5 minutes and think about it. I've thought about this for hours and hours, and I have not changed my mind. As disgusting as the words are in the connotation that they have been used in the past, I say these statistics should be kept separate but equal. Josh Gibson should be hailed as being one of the greatest players of all time. But I cannot, in good conscience, say he's better than Ty Cobb or Babe Ruth, and I can't say they're better than him because they never got to play together. So we need to acknowledge them all on an equal plane. I'm sorry, but it's separate but equal. And if you hate me for saying that, so be it. But in this particular case, not bathrooms, not facilities back in the 50s.
No, it's just that it's unfortunate that everybody did not get to play together all the way through.
Yes, it's terrible. It's an awful tragedy. It is a terrible mark on our society. But part of the problem with our society right now is we can't move on.
Yeah.
This is not a solution to the problem. This is going to piss off a ton of people. Doesn't piss me off. But I'm also going to say, I don't look at Josh Gibson as the greatest player of all time. I know the statistics. Now, is he one of the best? Yes. And he should be acknowledged as such. But I'm not going to denigrate Ty Cobb, and I'm not going to denigrate Babe Ruth, because all of a sudden now we're forcing all these new statistics in where there weren't even box scores. Right. They had people, experts, quote unquote experts, piecing together box scores so we could come up with these numbers.
There was no official count of a lot of things from back in the day.
So again, you can hate me all you want, and that's fine. That's why we're politically incorrect. That's why we label each and every episode as explicit, because I just think baseball has fucked this up so much over the past 60, 70 years that there is no clean, honest way we're ever going to be able to judge these players on their statistics, even looking at modern day.
Oh, modern day is so jacked up.
With the changes in how they're managing pitchers and the stat geeks, the analytics have destroyed the game. How
Yeah,
are we
you
really
can't.
supposed to know if a Ronald Acuna Jr., again, we'll get to him in a minute,
Yeah.
but a guy of that talent, a guy that's that good, a Mookie Betts, maybe a better example right now. How good is he compared to the players of the past when he's got load management? You know, he's got a now. What was it? Marcus Simeon, I heard, finally sat down after a long, long stretch where he was playing every game, and good
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah. Finally, somebody who wants to be out there, who's been able to.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a 10-minute rant. Dave's got to have some. I'm gonna
I inherently don't have an issue with it, but I know where you're coming from. And you actually have to look at all the stats through the different eras of the game. You cannot compare. It's not apples to apples, kids.
And you can say that about basketball. You can say it about football.
Yeah, everything is a different generation. Now, you got all these guys putting up numbers. Yeah, they've been playing 16 games, 17 games. It keeps seasons get longer. Where does it stop?
Yeah, and how many times, of course, Dave's alluding to football. How many times are we going to hear, well, if Dan Marino had 17 games, considering the massive numbers he put up in the early 80s?
When they were playing, what, 14, 15?
Yeah. Can you imagine the year he would have put up with the defensive situation that you've
And
got
he
now?
played in a running era.
With no running back.
Yeah.
So I fully welcome your comments on this, even if you're going to call me names. But this just reeks to me. There's something wrong here.
This shows how screwed up trying to track any statistics across any sports is through the generations with all the changes that have come through.
Socially, culturally, and statistically. So, again, good for Josh Gibson. Now we're supposed to acknowledge him as the greatest hitter of all time. Again, I will not. I will put him up there
as one of the greatest of all time.
And of course, Willie Mays, his numbers are going to get bumped up because of the time he spent.
Include.
Yep. So
But how close are Mays' numbers from his time in the Negro League to his time in the MLB?
Well, I think it's more the home runs, home run total gets added. But
if the averages are comparable,
well, then that won't affect his average per se.
Right.
But it's more about more runs scored, more home runs, the whole number statistics. Let's put it that way instead of the percentages. Now, I mentioned Ronald Acuna Jr., last year's MVP.
Ouch.
Second time in 3 years. Now it's different knee.
But a torn ACL.
And I'll tell you what, you and I believe, both had the Braves going to the World Series.
Yeah, this kind of puts it. Makes it a little more difficult for him.
I had not only Ronald Acuna Jr. going back-to-back MVP, but I had Spencer Strider winning the Cy Young, and he couldn't make it out of the first week of the season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this would be one of the greatest managing jobs of all time if they can somehow make a deep run into the baseball postseason without their top pitcher, Cy Young, preseason favorite, and their reigning MVP.
Yeah, they're hurting right now.
Well, I just want to go back. Can I go back to the whole statistic thing for 1 second? I'm gonna bring it into football.
Okay.
One more time.
1001.
Listen, shut up. God damn it, Dave. If you hadn't given me a tourniquet earlier, I'd be really mad at you right now. Let's imagine that we were able to bring in the old USFL statistics into the NFL record books. So how many more yards would Herschel Walker have? What would Jim Kelly's numbers? Or Steve Young?
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind.
Valid.
That's another good way.
That's a valid point.
Another way to look at this. That's all I'm saying. It's all fractured. It's the ABA stats, the old ABA stats.
Yep. Pull those into the NBA. What does Dr. J's numbers look like in
Yeah,
that regard?
Dr. J, even though I love Dr. J, his numbers for the other geeks out there, the stat geeks, look a hell of a lot better. George McGinnis.
Yep. There's a lot of guys.
So just keep that in mind. That's where I'm going. I'm not trying to play race cards here.
No, we're putting it in perspective of what you're going to get. Where is this the lid to Pandora's stat box?
Yeah, just like we've seen with college football over the last week, where I firmly believe college football is done. Completely, totally shot and done. But that's all over money.
Yeah.
This is more statistic based. Speaking of more statistics, I know you don't like hearing this because you had the Baltimore Orioles last week in our Sports Frenzy baseball competition, but the St. Louis Cardinals, of course, swept the Orioles.
Yeah, don't remind me.
From May the 20th through May the 22nd, breaking Baltimore's impressive 106 series streak where they had not been swept.
Figures it would be the week that I took them.
But you should feel good because they bounced back and won 4 in a row.
Yeah, it's a little late.
Who'd they win those 4 in a row against, Dave? Oh, do you want to talk about the White Sox?
No, not really. Who have now lost 7 straight, starting with that run.
That 4-game sweep?
Yes. 15-41. Oh, they're shitty. So bad.
Yeah, they've really fallen behind the Marlins and the Rockies, and they are by far and away again the worst team in baseball.
As predicted.
Last place in the AL Central, 22.5 behind Cleveland already. And we're not even 2 full months into the season.
Nope. It's really, really, really pathetic.
Now, going back again to last week, they've stumbled a little bit here. I think they lost 2 out of 3 to the Rockies. But the Phillies had the best 50-game start at 36-14 since the 2001 Seattle Mariners. And what happened with those Mariners, Dave?
They did not win the World Series.
So maybe there's a lesson in there somewhere, kids. And then, of course, I've got to talk about my wonderful Chicago Cubs.
You're inept.
I hate this team. I can't say it enough.
How are they? They're 1 game above 500.
You know,
right
28-27, second place, 3.5 behind the first place Milwaukee Brewers, who they're playing right now. Tonight, they should win with Imanaga pitching. We'll see. This could be, as Aaron mentioned at our meeting last week, he's waiting for the 1 game.
Yeah.
When the bloom comes off the rose and somebody finally gets to Imanaga. But the Brewers have not been able to hit Cubs pitching at all this year. And last night was the perfect example when young Ben Brown had a no-hitter through 7. 10 strikeouts, 93 pitches, and they pulled him. And he's had nothing but good things to say about Craig Counsell, saying, I know he's looking out for my future. I understand why he did it because, again, the bullpen let up a hit in the 8th. Now, this pathetic team, though.
They couldn't hit their way out of a wet paper bag.
If you told anybody on any team, we're going to let you have a no-hitter through 7 innings, are you going to win the game? 90% of the time, yes.
Yes.
The Cubs did win, but they had to go to extra innings tied 1-1. And it's hard for me to say the bullpen blew it because they only let up 1 run.
Yeah, that's
but the
pretty
team
pathetic.
Finally in the 10th goes, okay, we got a man on second, so maybe now we can do some damage.
So bad.
And I can't blame Counsell yet. It's just not right to blame him. A third of the way through his first season, he's done a remarkable job with the starting pitching. The starting pitchers are unbelievable.
Yeah.
Outside of Kyle Hendricks.
The other thing you have to remember, it's his first year with this team. He's got to get to know the players and their tendencies, who he can count on, who he can't. This is still a big experiment for him.
Yeah, so I'm not at all upset with him. I'm upset with the overpaid, overblown lineup. The $30 million we're paying Cody Bellinger and the $20 million. Oh, Ian Happ hit 2 home runs the other night. Yeah, and now he'll go on an 0 for 30 streak.
Yeah,
and then he'll have another game where he hits 2 home runs and drives in 3 or 4 runs. Because
and then
this
he's
is what he does
for another month.
Yeah, this is what he does.
He's useless.
And Swanson and Suzuki, after their injuries, have looked like crap.
Yeah, they're not doing themselves any favors either.
You take those 4 players, Suzuki, Happ, Swanson, Bellinger, you are talking about $80 million minimum, if not more, of the team's payroll, and they can't hit for shit. Mike Tauchman is the best batter they've got in that lineup right now.
They need to bring PCA back up.
Yeah, I can't figure that out. He looked actually fairly good.
But he wasn't going to get enough at bats to stay fresh when
Suzuki came back off
so
the
then
IL.
You dump Happ.
I really hope they can find a buyer at the trade deadline for Ian Happ. I really do. Get in some bullpen work. Oh, speaking of which, I had some more talks, some more talking points about the Cubs at the end of the episode. And we all know what that means, kids. We all know what that means.
All right.
Couple little notes in the NFL. Texans are still going all in. Texans give wide receiver Nico Collins a 3-year, $72.75 million extension with $52 million guaranteed, and Tank Dell coming off being shot. They're saying looks phenomenal.
That could be a potent duo out there.
And that's not even counting the fact you got Steph Diggs.
Yeah.
I still don't understand why they thought they needed him.
You can't rely on him.
I still don't understand.
He's not
They've got to be going for it this year.
He's not a good veteran presence to have with these 2 young receivers.
I agree. Completely agree. Speaking of a bad presence, former Broncos and Jacksonville Jaguars kicker Brandon McManus, now with the Commanders, being sued along with the Jaguars for sexual assault.
Yep, inappropriate contact with the stewardesses on a team flight to London.
All right, can I piss more people off? I told you, this is going to be the motif, the pattern for the weekend. This is the mood I'm in. I got the pineapple Hawaiian shirt on. I'm ready to swing, baby. I am not saying by what I've read, I am not saying what he did was right. That is not in any way, shape, or form what I'm saying. But I have an issue with the language.
Calling it sexual assault when it's more like harassment?
Yes. I know battery actually involves physical violence. Hitting, striking. But assault sounds nearly as bad. And what I have read, it sounds more like harassment. I just don't like the language because sexual assault,
to me, is rape or penetration of something more egregious than the rubbing up against them. But it's still a horrible thing that he did.
Yeah,
There's no reason for him to have behaved that way.
No, and
it's pathetic.
you are in a enclosed space where there is no escape. These flight attendants, these stewardesses, had nowhere to go. They had nowhere to run. They couldn't leave a club. They couldn't leave an apartment or a
Yeah.
house. They were stuck up thousands of feet in the air.
Yeah.
So I get that. I completely get that. Surrounded by a football team, a bunch of testosterone.
And some of these guys should have taken this guy aside and had a serious chat with him. Because some of them, by account, saw what was happening. And you have got to hold your teammates accountable.
Yep.
You cannot let stuff like that happen.
We've got all this stuff going on with these kickers here week in and week out, it seems like. But of course, this is much more serious than anything Harrison Butker said. Again, I just have a problem with the language. In that he did not strike anybody, he did not rape anybody. I still think there's a double standard. To a certain degree, there's a double standard. We will see how this plays out. They're asking for $1 million. I would think they would settle this.
You would think, but
the
the
legal
problem
bills
is the stewardesses reported it to the team immediately, and nothing had been done.
And the Jaguars do not have the best record when it comes to this type of stuff.
No, they do not.
So, Shad Khan, get your ducks in a row. Stop worrying about building a new stadium.
Do not become the Washington Commanders,
There you
Part
go.
2.
So it looks like that old chain gang might be done, Dave. It looks like the NFL will test in the preseason an optical tracking system for the line to gain and the line to gain only. So that means for the first down only, not anything involving a 2nd and 4 or a 3rd and 5. It will basically be only for first down or not.
First down marker.
Did we make the first down or not? But this could be the end of the chain gang as we know it. They will still keep them on the field for, of course, fan purposes.
For reference.
Visual aid for the
visual
fans.
reference, even for the players on the field.
Right.
Because they have got to have an idea of where they're trying to get to.
But in terms of the actual...
the official...
Yep, this will most likely, by all accounts, unless the test goes horribly wrong...
the NFL. Of course it's going to go horribly wrong the first time they do it.
This will be made into law. It will be law once we get to week 1 in the kickoff here in 2024. And now we've got the NFL Players Association, of course, has to negotiate and says they have submitted a proposal to the NFL. We'll accept a longer training camp if you get rid of all of the voluntary off-season on-field workouts. And unions, they're so awesome.
Are they?
Yeah. Well, let me piss more people off. Let's just keep the train a-rolling. The maestro train a-rolling off those tracks, down the embankment, into the gorge full of rocks and rattlesnakes. As I say, fuck unions. There's got to be some other kind of ulterior motive here. Who would agree to a longer training camp just to get rid of voluntary off-season on-field work unless there's something else going on behind the scenes? I got to believe they figure that if they get this... Is
this their negotiating piece when the NFL says, we want to add another game?
Yes. Very, very astute on your part, Conquistador.
We know these sports conspiracies.
Yep.
We've written half of them.
Yep. So I think that's exactly what they're doing, is they're trying to set themselves up. It's like a board. It's risk is what it is. And they're moving their pieces around, preparing for, like you said, the 18-game schedule for the possibility of an overseas franchise.
Wrong.
So we will see how this all plays out down the road. Now moving on to college football. let's play a little sad song for the Pac-12. As the Pac-12 is technically, in many people's eyes, done now, even though they're not.
They're not. They're still the Pac-2.
But once Arizona won the Pac-12 baseball championship here recently, that was the last competition for the Pac-12 as we know it. Now, as Dave said, Washington State, Oregon State still have a 2-year grace period as the Pac-2. But they will need to get 7 members minimum to join them to keep the Pac whatever alive.
It can still be the Pac-12.
I still think they need to join the Mountain West. And then the big bullies need to accept the Mountain West as the big West Coast Conference and accept them in. We know that's not going to happen.
Or you keep the name Pac-12
and the drop Mountain West.
Yeah.
Either way.
Because
either way,
Pac-12 as a name carries more cachet than Mountain West.
I agree with that. So either way, I'll take it. As long as you accept them, if Washington State and Oregon State fold in to the Mountain West and whatever they call it, that needs to be acknowledged as a power conference. Because I'm tired of this crap where the SEC and the Big Ten all of a sudden run everything and they get to determine.
It's ridiculous. It's bullshit.
The ACC's on life support. The Big 12 is out there, and yes, the Big 12 is valid. But we'll talk more about this down the road.
Sick of all these teams jumping to these 2 conferences. Why are you doing that to yourselves? Why? It's the snake eating its own tail.
It's money. Money, 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 money.
But it doesn't do anything for anybody.
They don't care about anything but money, Dave. You know this.
They should care about being viable.
They don't care about the sport. We have said this for years. They don't care about the fans. They don't care about the sport. All they care about is cold, hard cash.
And that is why it's going to go down in flames.
Some football devil rises up at the crossroads down there between Alabama and Georgia. And this crossroads devil would go to Alabama and Georgia and say, we can fix it so you guys are the only 2 teams that matter and the rest of them fall apart. What would you say? And they would say, yes, let's do it in a second. And you're guaranteed to make $5 billion a year in perpetuity. They would say yes in a second.
Of course, because
and every year we would be forced to watch. Oh, wait a minute. We're forced to watch it anyway. Alabama and Georgia for all the marbles.
Year in, year out. It's sickening. It needs to end. But it won't.
And I still think what we're seeing this year is the death knell for college athletics, especially college football. Now, happy times here in the upper Midwest, outside of our studio here, as Notre Dame won a championship.
Back-to-back in lacrosse.
And the funny thing is, 2 football players were on the team.
Yeah.
Tyler Buckner, the MVP of Notre Dame's 2022 bowl game in football, and Jordan Faison, the 23 bowl game MVP, both on the Notre Dame men's lacrosse team, who, as Dave alluded to, go back-to-back winning lacrosse championships. Now, we saw this coming. This is another thing that's going to cause controversy. I don't think I'm going to be the one in this case. I've already pissed off enough people in the first 40 minutes of this podcast. But news broke today. Charges have been dropped against Scotty Scheffler
We knew this was gonna happen.
for the incident outside of Valhalla. The
We
PGA
knew it was gonna happen.
Well, the minute we heard that the body cam footage
There
didn't
was none.
exist,
We
because
knew it was done.
yeah, the lawyer would have ripped this case apart. It would have been a waste of time, not only for Scheffler but for Louisville.
Yep.
How do I feel about this? This is one of those things where I'll go back to say, you or I, we would not have had the benefit
Of the doubt.
No. We would have had to spend,
We would have been up on charges.
we would have had to put ourselves in massive debt to get a lawyer good enough to point out that the body cam footage was missing. And after he or she had put us into debt in legal fees, yes, the charges probably would have been dropped.
But we would have been screwed.
We would have been working 3 jobs for the rest of our life.
Yeah.
To pay off the legal bills. Whereas Scotty Scheffler, he's going to pay his legal bills and he'll take care of that in one weekend's play on the PGA Tour. Yes, I'm bitter. If you haven't figured that out by now after 40 minutes, there's something wrong with you! Lexi Thompson. We're trying to include more women's sports.
We are. We're going to the LPGA here.
Lexi Thompson, I know she's a big deal because she's one of the featured golfers on the last version of EA Sports Tiger Woods
Golf.
PlayStation Golf. Lexi Thompson retiring at 29.
Yep, retiring from playing professional golf.
At the end of this season, she has won 1 major, 11 LPGA wins, 15 worldwide. So, women's golf. See, now women's golf needs a Caitlin Clark. Women's golf needs somebody like that to bring the audience in.
We thought potentially that could have been Michelle Wie back in the day.
Yes.
But she has flamed out.
Yep. And of course.
Flamed out or flaked out?
Well, yeah, and I don't know because, a lot of people would say Paige Spiranak, but that's more because not of what she does on the course, but how she swings a club in a bikini.
Yes. Her modeling, she's well known for her modeling career.
Yes. So we're not trying to promote that. Although we'll get into the WNBA in a minute. And I've got a couple comments about that. I know Dave has been waiting for this all week to jump in on this one because I know how much he loves the competitive eating contest. The Nathan's hot dog eating challenge. Takeru Kobayashi has officially retired from competitive eating. I believe his wife said he has messed up his digestive system so much that he goes days without eating, never feels full.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Just those pictures. Oh my God.
No.
Dunking the buns in the water and oh my God.
No, sorry.
The bloodletting continues at ESPN. Longtime Cowboys reporter Ed Werder is out at ESPN. So they're going to have to find a new guy and a new Cowboys insider, leaving ESPN after 26 years. But somehow Scott Van Pelt still
has a job.
He's on air like 12 hours a day.
Did his family buy stock?
By all accounts, the guy is a phenomenal human being. But there's something about him. And I'm sorry, this is me. Again, trying to piss off everybody possible this week.
I never thought he was that good at what he did.
But he's supposedly one of the nicest guys in the world.
That's fine. So was Angel Hernandez, but that doesn't mean he does a great job.
Maybe it goes back to when I listened to ESPN radio, and he did the show with Ryan Russillo, and Ryan Russillo was the most unbelievably arrogant jackass of all time. And now he's dropped off the face of the earth. But those two had a radio show together in the afternoon for a long time on ESPN. And I could not stand Russillo. And he probably tainted my view of Scott Van Pelt. But now Scott Van Pelt tries to be the minor league Jim Nantz with the golf coverage, and he just doesn't do it for me.
No, there's.
And again, could be a great guy. Could be I was with him at one point on the PGA Championship coverage. I was with him because the cameraman, I don't know if it was Friday, focused on one of the rivers or the creeks, and there was a copperhead swimming through, and Scott Van Pelt's going, "Oh no, oh hell no, that little demon, that evil creature." And I was like, "Amen, brother, amen." I was like, finally, something that Scott Van Pelt and I are on the same page about.
Anti-snake.
Snakes are evil. Snakes are evil. All right, let's go to tennis real quick. The French Open has started. And sadly, Rafael Nadal gets knocked out in the first round.
Ouch.
The King of Clay will not commit yet to this being his final French Open, but even if it is,
the writing is in the clay.
But nobody will ever match his dominance at Roland Garros.
Oh,
nobody.
Hell no.
No, he was the king of clay.
Absolutely.
And this is another sport where we look at it. We've got to look at it and go, who's going to step up? You've got now Nadal almost done. Federer completely done. Retired, gone.
Yep.
Djokovic maybe another year and a half.
At most.
Who's going to step up? Or you're going to have the same issue you've got with the LPGA,
where there's
no superstar to draw attention to the sport. Sorry, again, don't mean to be negative Nancy, but
facts is facts.
Yep. And again, my quest to piss off every human being in the world continues tonight. Let's move on to basketball. Unfortunately, the conference finals are turning out to be a bit of a snoozer.
Yeah, it's kind of one-sided on each end.
Yeah, the NBA got a little bit of a break last night in that instead of getting 2 sweeps, the Timberwolves finally showed up, so they are only down
3-1
to the Dallas Mavericks, whereas the Celtics swept the Pacers. And
they were tested. The Pacers gave them a test.
Just when you thought after Game 7, with the Pacers beating the Knicks, now granted the Knicks were beat up, but finally, 2 weeks ago, we were criticizing Tyrese Halliburton, supposedly the number one man, the star of the Pacers. And he had not looked good, but he finally showed up in Game 7 against the Knicks. And then what happens? He has a hamstring injury. He misses the final 2 games in the 4-game sweep. So now the Pacers, as tough as they played, there are still a lot of questions with that team. Because Rick Carlisle, even though he's safe in his job, he made a lot of coaching blunders. Now, do you keep Pascal Siakam? Are you keeping Halliburton around for the long term?
I don't know that you can, because you know who he's turning into.
Or do you blow it up and start all over again?
You've got a decent core there. You just have to make a tweak or two.
Yeah, but if you get rid of Siakam and Halliburton, that's a full-blown rebuild.
I would dump Halliburton first.
I like Siakam. I really
Siakam is more reliable than Halliburton.
Well, Siakam's got a ring, too. Siakam was one of the key members of that Raptors.
Yeah.
Was a 2019 championship team.
Yeah.
Yeah, Halliburton. I still think the Pacers made a huge mistake letting Domantas Sabonis go to the Kings. That guy is a triple-double machine. And they decided to gamble and say, no, we want Halliburton. We'll take the point guard instead of the guy who can do the dirty work inside.
Yeah, and that was a mistake because that's what they need is the
Well,
dirty work.
They already had Miles Turner, so they figured we've got Turner. We're going to have to try to get better help on the perimeter. And Sabonis, I'm telling you, I love Sabonis. I think the Kings got the better of that deal.
Yes.
Now, in terms of head coaching moves, even though they got to the second round of the playoffs this year, beating up on my Orlando Magic 7 games, the Cavaliers fire head coach J.B. Bickerstaff. So that'll tell you can do a really, really damn good job and still get canned. So what do you think next year, LeBron James player coach?
God help us.
Let me ask you this. Does it seem that far out of the realm of possibility?
Not really. But there's talk he could wind up in Phoenix.
LeBron?
Yeah.
Well, I think it all depends on who's going to draft Bronny. God, what a joke the NBA is.
I'm sorry.
What a joke the NBA is.
I feel sorry for Bronny that's hanging over his head. Wherever he goes, there's the thought that his dad's going to go there to overshadow him once again.
Yep. No, I agree completely. It's sad.
Let the kid earn a name for himself. Drop the ego at the door.
Well, look what's happened. Even though he doesn't play, look what happened with the ball kids. And look what a disaster that has turned out to be between the injuries and the father overseeing everything. I don't want any part of a father pushing his way into negotiations, coaching a team, saying he wants part ownership of the team, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You can go somewhere else.
Don't want that headache.
Nope. And then, of course, one of LeBron's favorite buddies who was rumored to possibly jump ship in Los Angeles and go from one LA team to another. Not Tyronn Lue anymore. I guess he's too cool for that now. So now we call him Ty Lue. It's just Ty Lue.
Ty Lue.
Got a long-term extension to stay with the Clippers. Why? I would actually maybe possibly say this. I would go work with LeBron. Because what's the option? You've got James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. One guy who's healthy but you can't depend on, and one guy who's plays great when he's on the court, but he doesn't play half the time because he's injured.
Yeah.
At least I will say this about LeBron. I know he'll keep himself in shape and stay healthy.
Yeah. And he'll play his ass off.
Except in Memphis.
But he goes out and puts the effort when he is on the court.
Yes. And despite the fact I still don't think he's one of the top 10 players in NBA history, I will give him credit that the longevity, the unbelievable shape he keeps himself in, cannot deny it.
No.
Cannot deny it. Now, before we get to the WNBA, I'm going to piss off some more people. Time to piss off Dallas fans before we leave the NBA. Because I have watched a decent chunk of the playoffs, okay?
Good for you.
Everybody is, look how great the Mavericks are. Aren't they awesome? Oh, they're up 3-1 on the Timberwolves. I'm telling you, Luka Doncic, he's a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
I've watched him. I think it was game 2. He gets away with screaming, yelling obscenities in other players' faces. He pushes off like nobody I've ever seen before. He will extend his off arm literally pushing the defender off, no call. This is what you get when you put Kyrie Irving in with him. And then, of course, you've got the most arrogant, egocentric owner in the league, that fucktard Mark Cuban, who I can't stand. I do not want the Mavericks in the finals, and if they get there, go Celtics. Go Celtics in a sweep.
Please.
And I really want to like Luka Doncic. I really do. But what I saw in this series against the Timberwolves, he is a typical arrogant, entitled NBA prick.
How much of that is Kyrie's influence?
Again, it's Kyrie and it's Cuban. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to blame Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd seems like...
I do not recall ever hearing or seeing that out of him before this season.
I agree. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm leading us into, is that the owner and his primary star teammate are the ones that have turned him into a raging douchebag.
And it's sad.
Yep. All right, I told you guys. Been watching the WNBA. Yes, I have. Now, my viewing hours are declining, but I will say that I watched a little bit last night as the Indiana Fever fall to 1-7. And they're still not good. And I still don't think
there's got to be a coaching change coming soon for it.
She can't coach defense. She just can't coach defense. And I know this is her third year and she improved the team from year 1 to year 2, but now they've fallen off a cliff.
She's just not a good coach.
And Caitlin Clark actually had her best game last night. Put up 30 points. She's still turning the ball over a little too much, and she's still getting
destroyed.
Yeah, 3 or 4 times a game. She is just getting waylaid.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to get to, what I was alluding to earlier.
The models.
Yeah. Have you seen, okay, we all know Kim Kardashian, right? And we all know she is a modern miracle of plastic surgery. She is the one woman.
She is plastic.
That is the one woman where plastic surgery actually worked. Butt, face, boobs, it all works. But of course, she has her own, I don't know if I want to call it intimate clothing line, but the Skims, have you heard about this? It's like this
her tight, bras and underwear.
Yeah,
and...
they don't even look like, it just looks like tight under wraps.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah, it doesn't even really look like underwear, but I know, I get it. And they have, if you watch the WNBA, and again, this will probably be a fad and fade really quickly for me, but they have a commercial featuring, I believe, half a dozen of the WNBA players wearing the Skims.
Yeah.
And of course, they're all greased up and oiled up. So Uncle Kevy even though most of these women could kick my ass. But again, you sit there and you wonder, okay, what are we doing? We're trying to promote the sport.
Why are we continuing to sexualize the female athletes?
Yes, that's what I wanted to get to here when we got to the WNBA. Now, Caitlin Clark is not involved in this, but there are a lot of other big names in the league. It doesn't matter, white, black, doesn't matter. And of course, I know there's a lot of people who like the same sex, let's put it that way. Because when I was watching one of the Fever games, they mentioned on the other team that the 2 women on the floor for the other team were engaged. So, but yeah, the big thing is the sexualization of the WNBA. Let's stop being hypocrites, okay?
You can't have it both ways. So you can't be claiming we're being sexualized, taken advantage of as females to promote the WNBA, while on the other hand, taking money to be half naked in commercials. Really, the hypocrisy of it, it's hard to take.
And this is why
So,
Dave and I
I
do not side with that Me Too movement, the hashtag Me Too movement, because there is, again, as he
it's
just said,
so hard for us to comprehend. You cannot, like I said, you can't have it both ways.
it's hypocrisy. It is like so many other things in our society. It's hypocrisy. But of course, we still have racing.
We do.
Lots and lots of
The
racing.
triple header.
Yeah, unfortunately, we did not get to go to the Indy 500 this past weekend, which was probably a good thing.
Yeah,
Although,
with the weather delay, the lightning, the rain, everybody was sardine canned all together.
yeah, no, we don't want to make light of the circumstances, because the reason why we didn't go, there was a death. But beyond that, yes, selfishly, it would have been a miserable long day with that 4-hour rain delay. As Dave said, sardine canned in underneath the grandstands. So we got to stay home and enjoy the triple header of racing on Memorial Day, starting off with the Monaco Grand Prix.
Oh my God, that was. Monaco is a cool setting. It's a storied race, but the track does not accommodate these cars. Once again, it was a boring ass follow the leader. Lead start to finish, it sucked.
Yep, a lot of people in the media agree. As Charles Leclerc had the pole and won the race, the top 10, as you alluded to, the same at the start of the race as it was at the finish in the exact same order. And that is the first time that has ever happened in F1 history.
Yeah, it's got to be taken off. Sorry. Like I said, it's a cool storied setting, but the track does not accommodate these cars. The streets are too narrow.
So then, of course, we move on, as we mentioned, to the rain-delayed Indianapolis 500, where Joseph Newgarden, last lap pass, goes
Yep.
back to back for the first time in 22 years, a back-to-back champion at the Brickyard.
Very good race. Lots of passing, which was great to see, especially passing for the lead. And pretty much that top five was jockeying for position the entire day.
Yep, now Honda had a lot of engine issues.
Yep, they go boom a lot.
Kyle Larson made two crucial mistakes, one early in a shifting.
Yep, on a first restart, put himself back a few positions, and then locking up the tires to get himself a speeding penalty.
On pit road, yep. So Kyle Larson finished 18th.
Which is a hell of a rebound from where he was.
Yep, and then there was the same weather mess. You could figure as weather moves from west to east, kids, it moved from Indianapolis and eventually got to Charlotte. So Kyle Larson was already in a pickle with the long delay at Indianapolis, and then getting to the Coca-Cola 600.
Gets there just in time to get his helmet on for a driver change when the rains came to Charlotte and stopped the race.
Yeah, pole sitter Ty Gibbs looked good early, but rain shuts the race down 249 laps in out of the 400 they were supposed to run. Christopher Bell wins. So they did award points for stage 3. I know you're not a big fan of that, considering Ryan Blaney was out of the race early. But I don't know how the race would have turned out. It looked like it could have been okay. Didn't look like it was going to be the most exciting race in the world, but
no, it wasn't that. It wasn't all that. Maybe as the temperatures dropped throughout the evening, as it was going, things were going to get more interesting, but the rains ruined all of that. So there you go.
Now, Tyler Reddick did not start out the race well, but he ended up in the top 5. And this is my problem with racing and NASCAR in particular, is that anytime I see somebody has a problem in qualifying, an unapproved adjustment, or they go to a backup car, they are allowed to screw around, fuck around with the cars as much as they want, and then they 9 times out of 10 march right up to the front. Tyler Reddick had to go to the back of the field and serve a pass-through penalty because they tweaked the car after inspection, after qualifying. And he still finished in the top 5. How is that a penalty? How is that a penalty?
Not. It's all optics.
So I'm supposed to congratulate Tyler Reddick for a top 5 finish? Bullshit. If they really did mess with the car after qualifying inspection,
then you sit them.
Obviously, the penalty is not enough to put him at the back and have him serve the pass-through.
Yeah,
obviously
that didn't
not
do
enough.
Anything.
It would have, again, depends on the track too. If this would have been Bristol, he would have been 3 laps down.
Right.
But here, not a death sentence.
No, they should have held him in the pits for the first 2 laps.
Then, of course, the big news this week, which I believe last week we fucking told you so.
We fucking told you so on Spotify, Pocket Cast, Apple, Overcast, Castbox, Amazon, Audible, and iHeart Sports Frenzy, baby.
That is otherwise known as iHeartRadio. Don't forget to check out the Facebook page for your weekly full list of NASCAR picks, baseball picks, and when football season rolls around, weekly football picks.
And don't forget the weekend edition, your Saturday morning hangover cure for your politically incorrect pop culture extravaganza.
Oh my God, have we got a lot on the weekend edition this week. Lots to discuss, a lot of music, not just in the music segment, but it will spill over into the movies. So you're going to have to check that out Saturday morning as you're drinking your coffee, taking your aspirin, frying up the eggs and the bacon. But we fucking told you so. It's now official. Stewart-Haas Racing is shutting down at the end of the year. That will include the Xfinity Series team, although you have news on that, as Cole Custer's father
is considering purchasing one of their charters
in Xfinity
or Cup.
Oh, okay.
We'll have to wait and see how that rolls out.
So SHR is done. The interesting thing, though, earlier in the week that we heard is that NASCAR's really going to screw this up. So you're going to have 4 charters now. We've heard that Front Row might have bought one already. Yep. Now, I have not heard it's specifically a charter from Stewart-Haas.
No, we're just speculating on that right
But they have bought a charter. So Front Row Motorsports is up to 3 full-time drivers now. But NASCAR is saying in their negotiations with these teams that they might lock down a limit of 3 charters per team. Of course, though,
unless you're already grandfathered in.
They will grandfather in Joe Gibbs.
And Hendrick.
Yep.
Isn't that convenient?
But everybody else will be stuck with a 3 charter limit if that ends up being in the final agreement. So silly season has come very early here with NASCAR. We'll see how this all plays out. But we know Chase Briscoe Noah Gragson, Josh Berry. Those are the three that I really think from Stewart-Haas that people will be looking at.
Yeah,
Ryan Preece.
probably not.
Do the horn of shame, Dave. The horn of disgrace. The horn of disgrace. Who would want Preece? I was shocked that SHR took him on.
Yeah.
Now, the Charlotte Roval, of course, a playoff track, has been tweaked.
Yes. They made a tighter hairpin turn. They've done a little other tweaking to create more passing zones. I like it. Add a little extra excitement.
Yep, we'll see how it plays out when we get to the fall and the final 10 races. Of course, I'll have the volume off because NBC and USA will be running those races, so I'll be listening to music.
We'll have to find an MRN. Sync up.
Now, the former voice, one of the few voices you actually like to hear on NBC's coverage, of course, next year will be with TNT and Amazon, is Dale Earnhardt Jr. Now, could it be happening? Will it happen? We had a little story here about a month ago about the evil mistress of darkness, Dale Jr.'s stepmother, Teresa. But Dale Jr. has now officially applied for the trademark on the number 8 car. Officially filed paperwork on May the 14th. The trademark will expire on June the 3rd. So we will see if Dale Jr. will actually get the rights to the number 8 trademark here in the next week.
Who knows?
I really don't care about the family drama bullshit.
It doesn't matter. It's done and over with.
They're not the only family
with issues.
Yeah, where a member has died, the member that actually built the family, that actually did all the hard work, and then
that
the other
set things up for the kids to continue the racing, and the wife says, "Not so fast."
Yep. Not the first time, won't be the last. And not just in racing.
Yeah.
Should we give the kids our picks, Dave?
Sure, why not?
Since I have a tendency to skip.
Worldwide Technology Raceway. Woo!
On the border, right?
On the border of
Missouri
and
Illinois.
Illinois.
Even though this is technically the Enjoy Illinois 300. Race 15 of the season this Sunday, June the 2nd. Now, they've only run a couple races here in the past on the cup level. So it's still a little bit of a feeling out process for us, even though I think we're NASCAR experts. Wouldn't you say that?
Not the way I'm picking right now.
I say you're a NASCAR expert. You're a NASCAR expert. And you're a NASCAR expert. Oh, by the way, I didn't happen to mention to you. This is a little insider sports frenzy info, kids. So a little gossip for the next minute.
Ooh.
As we've had one of our 8 panel members who has been very, very tardy with his picks. Maybe finally this week turning things around. But I got an email from the leader of Sports Frenzy West, one of our panel members. Of course, he runs Sports Frenzy West the way he's going to run it.
Yep, he initially brought the penalized person in.
So I happened to mention to him, when he saw what was going on with late pick penalties, I happened to mention to him, Dave and I have discussed this. He was worried. He emailed me, he says, so is so-and-so going to be dropping out? And I said, not that I know of, and we're not going to force him out, but we're working on contingency plans.
Because you have to do that.
Yes, and I said we might have somebody who could possibly jump in, but it's, I would say, 50-50. And I said, do you have
60-40.
Well, that's good to hear.
Maybe.
60-40 positive?
I would think we could convince them.
Okay. Because that's what I would want to do. That would be my number one option. But number two option is I asked him, I said, do you have anybody in Sports Frenzy West who would be willing to do this remotely like you do? And I thought I might get a little bit more of a positive response.
He said no.
Yeah, I got, nobody here likes NASCAR, and I can barely get these people to sign up for fantasy football to the point where I can't even count it.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, well, shit, I guess that ain't going to work. There are two, arguably, to me, are two best sports, and they don't want anything to do with it. So they
How do they not want anything to do with fantasy football?
You know what they do? They do three or four football competitions and 2 or 3 baseball competitions, and that's it. That's all. And I think they do March Madness.
Lame.
But yeah, NASCAR. Well, nobody likes NASCAR.
Lame.
See, Doug would fit in well there.
He would.
He'd probably come in and say, let's do
the ponies
and squash
and
golf
pickleball
and pickleball and racing, horse racing. So all that being said, there you go. A little insight into
what are we talking about?
Yeah, the machinations, the background machinations of what goes on at Sports Frenzy.
Oh yeah, we were going to give you our picks for Worldwide Technology Raceway.
Yep, 6 of the 8 panelists. Yes. The tardy one has got his pick in.
The 10-point penalty, I think, may have
woken him up a
little.
All right. So 6 of the 8 panelists are in. I have faith. I have hope. Even though the deadline is still over an hour away.
We heard your phone ding.
The other 2 will get their picks in. I have faith in one of them, at least. All right. Dave, who are you going with?
He let me down last week. His crew did, not getting a tire set right. Fell off, crashed. I'm going with a bounce back from Blaney.
And I am going with his teammate. I think the Penske Fords run very well. In the limited experience we have at Worldwide Technology Raceway, Joey Logano is usually not somebody I trust. I know he's a 2-time champion, but to me, he's right now like Kyle Busch. I can't. Alex Bowman's another one. I can't trust these guys.
They're not doing anything this season to warrant, but.
Right. So I will go ahead and pull the trigger this week on Joey Logano. He needs a hell of a race, if not a win.
I have him lined up somewhere else down the line.
He is right now out of the playoffs.
Yes, he is.
If they were to stop the season today, which of course they're not, Daniel Suarez would screw him and Chase Briscoe. And those 2 would be out. Suarez would be in. So Logano really, as a 2-time champion, has got to start running better.
Yep. The other lone picker at this point, the elder statesman, Sam, is going with Martin Truex Jr.
All I can think of is Sam with one of his fingers knuckles in on his nose.
Or up, never mind.
Lone pick. Oh, you're even worse than me. You're even worse than me. If I didn't love you so much, I'd rat you out to the elder statesman.
Hey, I'm just thinking of any which way but loose. No spitting, picking, scratching, farting.
And I actually do like his pick a lot. I'm too deep in on Truex, so I didn't want to go 3 deep.
That's what she said.
Yep. So I didn't want to use my 3rd on Truex, but I think that's a very, very solid pick.
Bill, Nick, and Aaron, all 3 taking Kyle Busch, who, more so than Logano, needs a good run. Yeah. I don't.
They're looking, of course, they're looking at the stats. Yeah. And the fact that Kyle Busch has run well in the first 2 races at Worldwide Technology Raceway. I just don't trust him.
No, his car's
I don't trust
he
Joey
had better
Logano, but
no, he had better cars the previous 2 years. This year, those cars suck.
yep.
There's no performance out of that team at all.
Yeah.
My hands are off until I actually see some improvement from them.
And let me ask you this, your expert opinion, because you are my NASCAR expert. We have now seen Stewart-Haas Racing dissolve, fall apart, despite the fact they have two championships, 2 Cup Series championships, not counting Xfinity and
Right.
what they've done there, but 2 Cup Series championships in the bag in the last 20 years. If Childress doesn't bounce back here soon, could we see the end of Richard Childress Racing?
His ego won't let that happen.
Okay. Because like you, I am agreeing with you. Austin Dillon has been an abject disaster.
Oh, he's been horrible. But
Kyle Busch hasn't done much.
Is Grandpa really going to replace?
You want to talk about entitled nepotism and bullshit.
Yeah.
If he actually cared about the company and he wasn't just willing to flush money down the toilet, he would have told Austin Dillon to take a fucking hike 2 years ago.
Yeah. He would have developed him a little bit better. There's nothing there from Austin Dillon.
No. And you wonder.
That's a waste.
I am not disagreeing with you. Do not take this as me disagreeing with you. But if he was sane, he would pounce on Chase Briscoe right now.
Oh, hell yeah.
Boot Austin Dillon out of the 3 and put Chase Briscoe in it.
Yeah.
But again, we're sane, we're smart, we're logical. And we're not dealing with
family.
Yeah, Grandpapa. All right, do we want to talk about hockey?
Go for it. I haven't been paying any attention.
Rangers and the Panthers knotted up at 2-2. This has been an intense series. Lots of overtime. I'm hearing Ranger fans are even impressed with what they're seeing from the Panthers. And they're saying this is a worthy opponent. We'll see how this one turns out.
Maybe I'll have to start paying a little more attention because I like a good knockdown, drag-out series.
As Bill would say, this is a slobber knocker. This one is going to go 7. I think this is going 7. And the Stars and the Oilers isn't all that bad either. Right now, Dallas up 2-1 on the Oilers. Game 4 is tonight as we record. The only thing I do not want is I do not want Dallas to get a team in the NBA Finals and the NHL Finals.
Oh, that would suck.
But at least you could rub it in Jerry Jones' nose. The Cowboys didn't make it.
Oh.
All right. Moments of silence. Too sad. I mean, anytime somebody passes away, it's sad, but these two are, for different reasons, really, really tragically sad. One, a man who was full of life. Yes, he was a hippie doofus.
He was,
but he
was a character. Come on, let's put it.
He lived his life to the fullest.
Yep.
Grateful Dead fan.
Won championships at college. Won championships in the NBA with 2 teams, Portland and Boston. The great Bill Walton.
Yeah, he was like the John Madden of the NBA when he got in the booth.
The hippy-dippy version of John Madden.
Yeah, and one of the few times where we will say hippy-dippy as a compliment.
Good way.
As a compliment. He was fun. When you are a commentator and you can be called fun, very rare.
Yes. No, Bill Walton was fun to listen to.
Yep. You never knew what he was going to say.
You were a better person for having the opportunity to listen to him. A pseudo quote from one of the tribute games that he had.
Yep. But he was different. He was fun. You can't take that away from him, especially now as we go through the NBA conference finals and we're subjected to Richard Jefferson. Good Lord. Now, I love Reggie Miller. Reggie's good.
Uncle Reggie's pretty good.
But, yeah, Bill Walton was one of the best. Fun.
Energetic.
See, you get John Madden. You get Bill Walton. This is what Tony Romo is failing as he tries to be like them. Failing miserably as he munches on a sandwich while he's talking about a crucial 4th and 2.
And he can't decide what should happen or what could happen when he doubles and triples down on different things. Shut up, Tony. Go away.
And then, of course, the
This
tragic news, and we have always said,
get help.
You can hate us as much as you want, or hate me specifically. Again, I'm trying to get everybody to hate me this week. But in this case, I don't think you will hate me for saying this. Your Uncle Dave and I always say,
if you're struggling, if you have dark thoughts, seek help. Talk to somebody. Work through it.
yep. And I understand it's expensive depending on what kind of health insurance you've got. And it sucks that you even have to consider that. But money doesn't matter. Get the help you need. Get to a therapist. It will do wonders for you. Just having somebody rational and sane to talk to. See, when I do the podcast, I have to look outside the studio.
That's right,
for sane
because
and rational
I'm
help.
going to drive him stupid crazy. It's my goal in life.
But we kid because we care. It's terrible news about PGA player, 2-time PGA Tour winner Grayson Murray, who he recently won here in 2024.
Yeah.
Something happened. I don't know what. He does have
He had some addiction issues,
but I don't know what triggered him or what happened. But Grayson Murray committed suicide at the age of 30 with a promising PGA Tour career in front of him. And
devastating his family.
And we don't know. We don't know what pushed him over the edge, what caused this reaction, this no going back reaction. But you can't do it, kids. You just can't do it. Don't take the gun. Don't
be that selfish.
The seconds before you pull that trigger or you take that bottle of pills or whatever you do, you will not want this to happen. You will not want it to go down this way. It might look like the easy way out, but it is not.
It's selfish. It ruins your family and friends. It's harder on them.
You're better off.
Get help.
You're better off in any other scenario. But as long as you're alive, it's better than the worst case.
Don't suffer in silence.
Nope, there are always people out there. You might not feel there are people out there, but I guarantee you, even if it's a paid professional, there are people out there who will help you and guide you out of the darkness into some semblance of the light. They might not be able to bring you all the way back, but they'll get you to the point where you do not make the decision to take your own life. And we will always hear on Sports Frenzy advocate that you get help. Suicide is not the answer. I don't care if you're 8 years old or 80 years old. Suicide is not the answer. There are always people out there who will help you. Reach out to us, for the love of God. We'll talk you off the ledge. And then we'll find out what sport teams you like and then rip you to shreds for that. But at least we'll keep you engaged, keep you talking, and keep you caring about life. Because as Hawkeye said on MASH, you can hate us, you can hate me. I just hope it's a long and healthy hate.
There you go. All right. Now we have to pivot.
Yep.
We have to recognize the idiots and morons of the world.
Yeah, after Grayson Murray, we can't really revel in our typical Ross Geller pivot, but as we have been doing lately, the Red Foreman Dumbasses of the Week, we will put forth a minimum of 3. We have 3 this week.
Yep.
A lot more in the weekend edition.
Yep. But sports, we have 3 contending for the uncoveted title of the Red Foreman Dumbass of the Week.
Now, I mentioned earlier that my Chicago Cubs are up for it. The Cubs need bullpen help. Now, I would say their offense is their weak spot right now, but the bullpen ain't far behind. Let's put it that way. And I said, as your Uncle Dave will attest to it, I said at the beginning of the season, the Cubs need to get bullpen help. Well, it turns out that the idiots waived a certain pitcher back in November. His name, Jeremiah Estrada.
Estrada or nada?
Well, I guess he had control issues. I guess he was walking, basically averaging 1 walk an inning.
Ouch.
The Cubs did not like the numbers, did not see the potential, so they waived him, and he ended up in San Diego.
Fresh start.
Yes, and he kind of went up and down here at the beginning of the 2024 season on the Major League roster, down to the minors, back up again. Well, this past week or 2, it turns out maybe Jeremiah Estrada does know how to pitch. Cubs could have used him. He just set a modern era Major League Baseball record with the Padres as he just struck out 13 straight batters in a row. Of course, as a relief pitcher, not in the same game.
Right. But still, that's more impressive.
And you want to know what's even more impressive? The fact that all 13 strikeouts swinging.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's some nasty stuff.
You're going to tell me the Cubs couldn't have used him in the bullpen? Somebody on the scouting staff really whiffed. No pun intended. Really whiffed on this kid.
Yep, so they did.
The Cubs dumbasses of the week for letting a young Jeremiah Estrada go.
All right. My dumbass is Red Sox pitcher Chris Martin, who got into it over the weekend because the team bunted not once but twice in a row against him. And he took exception to that because, as they call him, Big Rig, more like Big Baby, because he doesn't like to field bunts. I know it's part of the game, but it's a hitting game. It's a weak way out. No, you're just a big pussy. You're a lazy player. Suck it up, you big baby. Dumbass for not being able to field a bunt.
And then using that as an excuse. It's not real baseball. If
it's a major part of the game. It's always been there. It is the lost art. I want to see more bunting. Back when they were doing when the shift was allowed, I wanted to see more bunts down the third base line when there was nobody down there covering.
Yeah. Yeah, now that the shift has been partially banned.
But still, there's times you need to bunt. I'm sorry. If you've got a no-hitter going against you, bunt the damn ball. Your job as a hitter is to get on base, to get a hit. It's not to free swing and make the pitcher look good and give him a legitimate shot at history. You want to break that up. You want the momentum for your team.
All right, can I be honest with you about something there? We can have a little disagreement. It depends on the score.
I don't give a shit about the score.
If it's 9-0 and 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth, you don't
I'm not
bunt.
getting no
You
hit.
don't bunt.
Yes, you do.
No.
Screw these unwritten rules of the game.
There's no way you're coming back.
Your job is to get on base. You don't know. If you get him out of there and bring the bullpen in, they could melt down.
If it's 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, I'm all with
you. Your job is to get
you.
On base.
If it's 9-0,
I don't care.
Come on.
Your job is to get on base.
To a point, I agree, but if it's
9-0, no, you do everything.
I'm not saying
power.
you concede the no-hitter. That is not what I'm saying. But I'm saying you jack one, you swing for the fences, you try to not only break up the no-hitter, you try to put a run on the board.
Screw them if it's at that point. No, you do whatever you can to break it up.
All right. I think if it's 9-0, you just go for personal glory and you try to jack one out of the park.
No, that's when you swing at 3-0. Regardless of the score, if there's a 3-0 pitch coming, I don't care what the situation. You're getting a cookie down the middle, you swing for the fences. Just like with bunting on a no-hitter. You do everything you can as the batter. The hell with the other team.
All right, we'll see how many 300 hitters we've got next week. Guys that obviously aren't bunting up to Dave's expectations to get on base. This one, I don't know. Could be the softest, fluffiest dumbass ever. But I just don't like it. I just don't like it, Dave.
You don't have to like it.
Remember the good old days with the lingerie bowl?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Lingerie flag football. When the bottoms kind of came down a little far.
Oh, on the weekend edition, by the way, we'll have a little discussion about that when it comes to the WWE this past week.
Ruh-roh.
But yeah, remember back when other channels would counter program against
the Super Bowl halftime show?
Yes, which I wish they would do again, because I don't want to see Beyonce, and I don't want to see Dua Lipa, and I don't want to see, Drake. I hate all that music. That's not my music. So bring back the lingerie bowl.
How about we just do away with the halftime show, period?
They'll never.
Because nobody's happy with it.
Never.
Nobody is happy with it.
Never going to happen. Never going to happen.
So do like I do. Leave the room.
But even remember Beavis and Butthead had a halftime show once.
Yeah, that was great.
That was the best. Then they brought in the Puppy Bowl. Remember that?
The Puppy Bowl was there before the Lingerie Bowl.
Okay, I believe that. I do. I'm with you on that.
Animal Planet had to bring that into play.
Well, June the 7th on ESPN Plus and the NHL Network, they're going to air the Stanley Pup.
Oh, Lord.
Yes. All the NHL teams will be represented by a cute rescue puppy as they frolic around the ice. Of course, it's for a good cause. All the dogs will be up for adoption. But this is just this is
come
pathetic.
On. That's a cry for help.
So yeah, sometimes a well-intentioned idea, like you said, is a cry for help. Sorry, I will not be watching the Stanley Pup.
Nope, not gonna happen.
All right, so our three dumbasses: Chicago Cubs, the Stanley Pup, and
Chris Martin. It's a weak lineup this week.
Yeah, and it happens. It happens. We've had weeks where we didn't have dumbasses, believe it or not. I just personally, my hatred for the Cubs right now is pushing me, even though I like yours a lot. And the fact this asshat can't field a bunt. But because this guy, Jeremiah Estrada, could have been in the Cubs bullpen right now if they had half a brain, I have to go with the Cubs.
And I will go with Martin.
There you
So
go.
there we go. It's a split decision.
Didn't they have a split decision with the heavyweight championship last week?
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, we're just a couple days away from that undisputed championship going away.
Yeah, yay.
And then, of course, we didn't even talk about the fact Mike Tyson had an
his
ulcer
medical
flare-up.
emergency,
An
the
ulcer
ulcer
flare-up.
flare-up
So
on
now,
a flight.
now is the fight going to be off?
Who knows?
The big fight, the Netflix fight.
Tyson Paul.
Jake Paul, right? Oh, God. Oh, God. All right, kids, do not forget to check out the weekend edition with your Uncle Dave and your Uncle Kev. I talked about it earlier. Lots of rock and roll. We've got a lot of TV and streaming. Books?
No book.
I have a book.
You have a book.
I have a book.
You have a book.
I have a book. I have everything this week. I am locked and loaded, ready to rock and roll. Multiple movies, multiple TV shows.
Wow.
And we have 6 dumbasses on the slate.
There you go.
For the Red Foreman Pop Culture Dumbasses of the Week. So you do not want to miss your Saturday morning hangover cure. Your Uncle Dave will be frying up the bacon, making you some eggs in a frilly little French-made apron.
Anyway.
Just kidding, kids. He's about ready to punch me now. So before you hear that on this podcast, I will bid you adieu. Say goodnight to the kids, Dave.
Good night to the kids, Dave.